What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're going to love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
Welcome back to Top Bins, the show, bringing you all the action from the Premier League and Serie A, England and Italy. I am your host, Matt, joined by my co-host, Dom. Dom, how are you?
I'm good, man. Chilling. A little tired. The week's been catching up to me, man, but always grateful to spend my Wednesday nights talking some footy with my best friend.
It is hump day. It is a Wednesday, my dudes.
I'm not doing it.
All right.
I'm not.
Set you up perfectly for it. That's fine.
No. See, I killed the ears of the listeners last time I was on the pod, so
That's fair.
Yeah,
but it was for a bit, so I think that's what matters. The most this week we'll be wrapping up some of the weekend's action and talking about, of course, the Premier League and Serie A, as we always do. And we're going to start with the Premier League because we might have a 4-team title race. We're probably not going to end up with that. And we've talked about this in years past. It almost always goes down in England down to 2 teams. Occasionally, you'll get a 3-team title race. I really don't. I didn't do the research, but I can't imagine or remember there being a 4-team title race, like going all the way to like March and April. I think that's if you are still within, 5 or 6 points at that stage of the season. I think you're still in the title race. It's just not very common for teams to keep that kind of pace. But, it felt like so far this year, like we've had a really strong start to the year, and there's a lot of contenders. That's because it is right now the most competitive Premier League title race at this stage of the season. This is from PremierLeague.com, actually. I got this on my phone today, and I found it really interesting. Never in Premier League history have the top 4 had so many points after 10 rounds of matches, making the 23-24 season statistically a high-quality title race to date. So all 4 teams at the top of the Premier League in various other seasons might, in fact, be like the sole, kind of top spot and might be seen as the very early favorites for the title. The fact that you have 4 of them and all teams, I think, have interesting components and storylines, and I don't think any of them are perfect either. I think all of them have things you can say are weaknesses or potential areas of concern going through the rest of the season. I think it's fascinating. And obviously Manchester City, I think, are going to be a lot of people's favorite to break out of this because we've seen them start a little slow to the year. In fact, they're a point better off than they were at this time last year. So they're technically improving on what was a title-winning campaign last season. And we've just seen them do this. We've seen them start a little slower. And again, once you get to February and March, just go on 13, 14 game streaks, and that's how they win their titles a lot of the time. I think based on that, you kind of have to count them in consideration. The fact that they've done this all without De Bruyne as well. He's been injured pretty much from the very first match. They really haven't had De Bruyne so far this year. I think it's fair to say that. But for all these other teams too, like they've had good seasons last year, or some combination of good season, good finish to the season, or came in with kind of renewed optimism, like Spurs. Right, we have a new manager, and it feels like you're kind of wiping the slate clean of a lot of stuff. So there's a lot to parse through there, but I guess Manchester City would still have to be considered our favorite to break out of this group.
Obviously, squad depth and quality of players within that depth, I mean, it plays a big part, and City has it like no other team in the league. And yeah, slow start, even though they're better off than their slow start last year. But, you mentioned Kevin De Bruyne being out. They've been dealing with injuries, right? So they're not even a team at 100%, which is kind of crazy to think about. But, I mean, for this team, it's tough to improve off of winning the treble, but the way you improve is by staying consistent and continuing to win trophies, and I think that they all have that set in their mind. Arsenal has kept up the quality that they had from last year. We talk about consistency with them. Liverpool are looking good again. So I would love to see them back in the title race. I just don't know how long Tottenham's is going to go for, but it does look like a revitalized Spurs, new manager. They've kind of moved on from the old guard, Harry Kane going to Bayern and whatnot. So you have some new players that can shine, and some guys who have kind of lived in Harry Kane's shadow can finally step up. I just don't know if it's weird to me because I do. Part of me wants to say that Spurs will continue to fight only because they're not playing in Europe. They don't have those extra games every week. You know what I mean? Yeah, you have domestic cups and those types of things, but I mean, even we saw from today, Arsenal, kind of dropping the ball in their game. So, it's to be seen, but I do think that we could have a 3-team title race. City, Spurs, and then Arsenal or Liverpool, whoever, stays consistent past, February.
Yeah, I think the thing with Spurs too is, like you said, they've had no Europe, and that's going to help them throughout the whole season. They've also had statistically one of the easiest schedules to start the season. That was something we identified even before the year started. But they did have a pretty favorable schedule, and that obviously helps, right? I mean, when you're playing kind of lower competition to start the year, you can only play, whatever the schedule maker makes you, right? It's not their fault for that, but I do think that's something to consider as well. That they had a pretty favorable start to the year. They played 2 tough matches to start the season, Brentford and Manchester United, but then they had Bournemouth, Burnley, Sheffield, Arsenal, Liverpool, Luton, Fulham, Crystal Palace. I don't know, they were home for Manchester United as well. They were home for the Liverpool game. You could say too that they really should not have even won that game, but largely speaking, they've played 3 of the bottom teams in the league, 4 of them actually, Bournemouth, Burnley, Sheffield, and Luton. Those are all all 4 of those teams will be in the relegation race. So that's positive for them. It starts to turn a little bit. They have Chelsea, Wolves, Villa, Manchester City, West Ham, Newcastle, all coming up. That's where, I think things get a little more challenging for them, and we'll start to see this team. You can say maybe they're running out of steam a little bit. In this past game against Crystal Palace, they didn't quite have the offensive creation we're used to seeing from them. I don't want to, break Spurs down too much and say that it's all going to fall apart for them. I just think it's funny you mentioned Harry Kane going to Bayern because they lost today to a Bundesliga 3 side.
Heard about that.
Saarbrücken. They're out of the DFB Pokal Cup, so maybe it's something wrong with him. Maybe he's.
Listen, I'm not saying anything.
Maybe he's just incapable of winning a trophy. I don't know, but really, all the top 4 teams I think have warts, and I think have aspects of them. Even City's depth, I think, is a little overrated. If you look at their bench, it's not. It's a good bench, but it's not quite what we imagine it. And they haven't found the right formula. I don't think when they don't have Rodri. Now, of course, they're going to depend on Rodri a lot, and we saw what happened when he didn't play, which was back-to-back losses in the league. Not something they do very often, and you can't count on that, but it's something they're going to have to navigate as the season goes along. But we'll talk about Manchester City and their big win over Manchester United over the weekend. They beat them 3-0. It's been this way, but this really felt like a moment where it's this is a very one-sided rivalry now, and the tide has really completely shifted. I know it has already. I know this isn't. I'm not breaking news, but it really hit me this weekend when this game was just so much in City's favor that it's really hasn't been all that competitive. I know United have gotten some results over City the last few years and whatever, but these 2 teams are just in just completely different tiers of teams and clubs. Honestly, the management and the way that they're run. I think they're really in stark opposition of each other, and they're trending just in opposite directions. And I don't know why, but this weekend was the first time that really, really cemented and felt real to me.
Manchester United is supposed to be one of these storied clubs of Europe and of the world, right? I remember, we're talking, I'm pretty sure, I could be mistaken, and either you or Kyle can fact check on me or can fact check me on this, but Didn't Manchester United sponsor Legends of the Hidden Temple?
I have no idea.
I swear to you, there was a
right
show I used to watch as a
I
kid.
know Legends of the Hidden Temple, but
I know that, but
we
there
were
was a
just talking about the
show.
Silver Snakes, baby. I know.
Yeah, there was a show I watched as a kid. I remember Manchester United was like a sponsor of the show. It's crazy. Like when we were kids, like Manchester United was the club and has always been the club. And listen, ever since Sir Alex left, I mean, yeah, you get a trophy here or there, and you know, you do this, you do that. Like it's not the type of level of consistency and stability that City has experienced, you know, since they brought Aguero in and you know, really took a turn for the better. Manchester is blue. It'll be blue and it will stay blue. I don't see this changing for a while until City ends up, you know, cycling and, you know, maybe Pep moves on or
They're
something.
cycling all right. They're cycling drugs. They're on steroids. All of
them. Ayo, that was your accusation. I didn't say anything.
It's not an accusation. It's telling the truth.
But yeah, no, Manchester will be blue and stay blue until United is under new ownership, in my opinion. That's the only way that they turn this thing around. It seems like
they're not going to.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it.
Okay, well, I have two pieces of news. One, I could not find anything about Manchester United sponsoring Legends of the Hidden Temple. I have a great piece of news, though, in that they rebooted Legends of the Hidden Temple in 2021.
I did hear about this.
Adults onto the show.
Sick.
Because I don't know why, but we have to reboot everything from our childhood now and, like, make it for adults. Just let it go, all right? Just let it go. The Rugrats is in the past. I don't know what to tell you. We don't need Hey Arnold for adults, okay? If you want to relive those experiences, just go watch Hey Arnold again. Just go watch. We don't need to do this. We don't need to make The Lion King into a live action movie. We don't have to do that. We could just do anything else.
We need apparently cartoons that we used to watch as a kid now brought to current times with them as adults to teach us valuable life lessons like they did when we were kids.
Like I don't understand it. Like, what is it? I don't understand the obsession, but yeah. Moving on. Aston Villa, Dom, win again at the weekend. It's their best start to a league campaign in 25 years. Unai Emery, boss man as he is.
Good evening.
What is this? What is the ceiling for this team? Because they had a great run of form under Emery last season, and it was a little unsustainable. And you start to saw the wheels fall off just a little bit at the final stages of last year, and they kind of came down back to earth a little bit. They weren't finishing at such a high rate, but honestly, even look at their underlying numbers this year. It's not like they're really outperforming anything. They're just playing very well.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here? Because it already feels like they're in fifth position, which, by the way, I feel the need to remind us of this, is likely going to be a Champions League spot for the Premier League this year, because they're expanding the Champions League format, and depending on how each individual country's coefficient does, that's how that spot is going to get doled out to the different leagues. It's very likely that Premier League is going to have teams going far into European competitions this year, meaning the coefficient is going to be high. So right now, Aston Villa could be a Champions League team next year if they stay in fifth spot.
This is the crazy thing, right? We're talking about this 4-team title race. Aston Villa is 1 point off of Liverpool. They're only 4 points off from first. So I mean, you could consider them, you know, this team in the race, kind of on the outskirts, obviously, but it's hard for me to imagine that Aston Villa can keep up a consistency throughout their season like the 4 teams above them. So it's almost like they are at their ceiling. But they heavily need to rely on like the quality that they're getting from Ollie Watkins, who is their top scorer and assist maker. Like he's putting the team on his back. He's responsible for 10 goals. But I mean, bringing in Moussa Diaby this year was huge for them. Douglas Luiz is a beast in the midfield, paired with John McGinn. I mean, they've got 2 guys that can break up play. They're a solid team with a good coach who knows how to get results. And it's no surprise to me that they are doing this well. I mean, they are in that Newcastle, Brighton, Manchester United, like hell, even West Ham kind of like tier right now. I think that, the way they've been playing, the players they have on their team, they deserve to have these roles. Not to mention they have one of the better keepers in the league as well. It's, they've brought in some good signings and have worked on guys that can kind of come in and, do a job for them when they need to rotate players and things like that. Like, I think that they're a good team, but I think I don't think that they're going to solidify top 4 or like, battle for anything like that. I think this is their ceiling. It's only a matter of, can they stay here or will they drop?
You bringing up Emi Martinez made me think of a tweet that I saw today, which was Bernd Leno being substituted for Emi Martinez. Someone quote tweeted it. This is 69 lad 420. Shout out on Twitter, x.com. Quote tweeting the June 20th, 2020 tweet from Arsenal. Best wishes, Bernd. That didn't look good. Emi Martinez coming in for Bernd Leno. So when Neil Maupay injured Bernd Leno, he had to come off, was injured for the season. Emi Martinez comes in, goes on a good run of form, ends up going to Aston Villa, picks up a lot of form there, is playing regularly, obviously goes with Argentina to World Cup. They win the World Cup. And this person quote tweets, I'm not even joking when I say this substitution literally changed football history and therefore world history.
Some people
and it really did.
I think some people failed to remember that, like, Emi was getting some time with Arsenal every now and then. I mean, you're talking back when, like, Shamak and those men were on the team, and, like, he's kind of there, the checks back up. He's the guy. What did I say? I think it was
I don't think Emi Martinez and
Copa
Shamak
90?
had overlap.
They did. They did. I swear to you, they did.
Shamak was gone by like 2011, brother.
No. They played in a game together. Oh, where did I see this? Did I see this on Twitter or did I see this on? Or sorry, X. Did I see this on X? I don't remember, but it was like, hey, let's not forget. This. It was like some game that Arsenal played. I forget who they played. They were talking about it in the tweet, but like, they had pictures of Serge Gnabry, Shamak. Who else was on that team?
He played 4 games in 2014-2015 Arsenal. I don't think Shamak was on the team then. I'm looking it up right now. I really think Shamak was gone by then.
Where was this, man?
I think some wires got crossed. 2014-2015, Shamak was on Crystal Palace. His last season at Arsenal was 2011-2012. I'm telling you, brother. I think he got some wires crossed.
I swear it was what I saw.
I know what you think you saw.
No, I know what I saw.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'm telling you, I think you're mistaken. That's all. Because he was at Bordeaux for like the first half of his career. Comes to Arsenal for 2 seasons, 2010 and 2011, and 2011-2012. Then is West Ham, Crystal Palace for 3 years, and Cardiff City. No overlap with Emiliano Martinez on any club. I'm sorry to tell you.
Unless it was a post that was like, never forget these ballers who played for Arsenal or something.
I think that's more likely. I think it was a streets don't forget. But for Aston Villa, I think bringing it back,
Sorry.
I think the only area you could say like might come down to earth a little bit is some of the finishing, right? Like they've definitely had some like lower quality chances going. But honestly, I think they're such like a well organized team that they're not an easy team to play. And outside of that first game against Newcastle, they've been really good this year, and they've rebounded well. And this is a team. I think the only consideration to keep in mind is that they're in Europe. This is a team that's probably going to take Europe seriously. Unai Emery is famously, of course, manager that gets a lot out of his teams in Europe. So that's going to be something that I think they will push for that as the season goes on, and that could, maybe be something. It's similar to the way that I felt about Brighton this year, that, when you're playing Thursdays and that's a big deal to you when you want to go far in that competition, you do have to prioritize things. We saw West Ham do it last season and paid off really well for them too because you win a European trophy. So that's something to think about as
it's tough for them because they're dealing with injuries to multiple players right now. Like Alex Moreno and Tyrone Mings are out. Buendia and Ramsey are out. So like in some pretty key areas of the field, they have some injuries that, like you said, they're playing these extra games that can come into play. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether that's to the success that they have in Europe, do they focus on that like West Ham did and kind of forget about the league? Or because their league position is so good, do they focus more on maintaining that and whatever happens in Europe?
Yeah.
If you're the manager or the club director, what would you do in that position?
If I'm a club like Aston Villa or
Brighton. If you have injuries to multiple defenders, multiple midfielders, your squad depth isn't the best, but you find yourself in fifth and you're also playing in Europe for the first time in a very long time, what do you do?
I am always pro go for Europe. I think winning. I think I'm personally like my philosophy is always any trophy is a good trophy. Like there's no such thing to me as a meaningless trophy. Even Europa Conference League, I think you're beating other teams from around the continent to win it. Like that will never not be a big achievement to me. Even something like the League Cup, Liverpool win today. I was excited about that to get to a quarterfinal. Like it does mean something to get to later stages of tournaments. As a fan, you want to see your team win stuff. Mm-hmm. That's all it comes down to. So for me, prioritizing Europe, especially as a team again like Aston Villa, like Brighton. Aston Villa do have some European history, obviously, but more Champions Leagues than Arsenal. But I think for Brighton too, like this is their first foray into that kind of atmosphere, right? Into that kind of arena, and it means something to do well and to challenge yourself on a European stage against other impressive clubs that have their own. To me it means a lot, and so I would always prioritize Europe over league position. I was happy that West Ham did it last year, that they sort of went all in on trying to get a trophy, and it's all the better too by the fact that they were successful for it. Honestly, like I've been very lucky. I've been a fan of Liverpool, so like I've got to see them perform well in Europe, and it's an amazing feeling like to say that you do that. That you go and play these teams from, especially in the Champions League where you're playing the best teams in the world. There's nothing like it. So yeah,
it must be nice. Must be nice.
Big proponent of Europe, big proponent of any of the cups, domestic cups, going all in for it because ultimately you play to. I was thinking about this because Fabio Grosso was in the news because the bus was attacked and he was injured, and I was thinking about this. And by the way, when we get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we're still doing our game breakdown of the 2006 World Cup semifinal between Germany and Italy. Grosso had two of the biggest moments you will ever have as an athlete. He scores a goal that sends his team to a World Cup final, which is already playing at a World Cup puts you in the 99.99999 percentile of players to begin with, let alone finding yourself in the position where you score a goal to get yourself to a World Cup final, and then you score the winning penalty in the shootout against France to win the World Cup for Italy.
It's crazy.
Like two of the biggest moments you will ever have. That is the same for like getting to a League Cup final. By 99% of athletes in any sport, not even just this sport, will never in their life even play in a championship game. Will never play in a final. Will never win anything. Like it means a lot to win something. It just does. And to me, you can't put a price on it. Is Aston Villa going to win the league? Very likely no. Could they win in Europe? Could they, they're at a League Cup, obviously, but could they win an FA Cup? Maybe. And that would mean a lot to them. Yeah. It would. It's a meaningful thing to do.
You bring up
Ask
a good point.
Portsmouth fan if they still think about their FA Cup victory, right? Ask Wigan if they still think about their FA Cup victory. And those are, 15, 12 years ago.
Ask older Blackburn fans what it was like to win a Champions League. It wasn't really called the Champions League back then, but
Well, Blackburn was
was
the early Premier League.
or sorry, yes.
But
I
Aston
could have
Villa?
sworn. I thought Blackburn won a European Cup.
No, sir.
No. Okay.
Thinking of Nottingham and Aston
Yeah.
Villa.
Yeah. Yeah, you bring up a good point because I was thinking about this as you were talking, and in one scenario you win a trophy, which you beat out other teams across Europe to get. On the other hand, you're pushing for Champions League, and maybe your team isn't ready for that yet, and a run through a lower European competition, being successful, and then building on that team with the extra money that you get into the transfer budget and stuff for winning the tournament and whatever. Now you say, okay, we're ready. Let's take that next step. All right, we finished just outside of Champions League now. Instead of Conference League, we're in Europa League. Where are they right now? Europe or Conference?
They're in Europa Conference League.
Okay, so like, all right, next year. All right, now we're in Europa League. Cool. We're the next step up. Let's do it again. Or let's focus on maybe we don't win the Europa League, but now let's get to the Champions League. Let's use our experience from playing in the group stage and maybe knockout stage here, push in the league, up our quality, and then next year we kind of go all in for Champions League. So I think that I agree with you, right? Like you wanna win something, you want to win a trophy. Not too many teams can say that, and from that you can build the team the right way. If you rush too quickly, in my opinion, into that top tier competition, and you end up struggling, and then you struggle in the league because of it as well, because your team's not fully prepared for it, you kind of just fall out of contention from there, and you become one of those 1-year wonders that you see once in a decade at your club, and it's like one of those streets won't forget teams.
Right. I think Aston Villa are in a good way. I think Emery's a good manager, and he's maybe just a tier
They're
below.
in a good spot.
Maybe just a tier below some like the elite managers, but he does have a great pedigree, and he's gotten a lot of good things out of a lot of teams. And this is like his level too. That's my last thing on Villa. Quickly on this, Brentford win their 3rd straight game at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea Dom have won 1 out of their last 13 home Premier League matches. It felt like Chelsea were turning a corner a little bit. They had some good results. They played Arsenal very well. Unlucky to probably not win against Arsenal, to only come away from that game with a draw. And then just a lifeless display. Enzo Fernandez not in this game. Mudryk not in this game either due to injury. But, man,
You got Spurs next.
It's like having someone in your life that you just can't trust anymore, where it's like you keep giving them chances, and it feels like they're getting their life together, and then it's just like it's back down again. It's a real struggle with me with Chelsea because I hate them and I love watching them lose. The hard thing is now I did pick them on our competition, and so like I'm incentivized a little bit. Now this weekend was fine because I saw Brentford, but it's like you have Spurs, I have Chelsea. I'm really conflicted about this coming up this week because, we're in this competition, so naturally I want Chelsea to win. And that would also mean that Spurs drop points, which means if Liverpool are able to win, they make up ground there. But it's also like I really hate Chelsea, and I love watching them do terribly and lose. So I would actually kind of like for them to lose to Spurs. I think there'd be a lot of juicy action there, too. The fact that you have Spurs coming up against Pochettino at Chelsea. I think there's a lot there, so it's opened up some conflicting patterns now.
Okay, yeah. Listen, I hate Chelsea. I just want to see them lose. Keep waffling. Monica needs me to go kill a bug, so I will be right back.
That is the joy of finding yourself in a loving relationship. For Brentford, I think it's an interesting season so far because it's obviously not been at the level that we typically expect from them. They did quote a price for Ivan Toney, which I found interesting. £100 million is what they want for Ivan Toney if they're going to sell him in January. Part of that math, I think, is that Brian Mbeumo and Yohan Wissa are both supposed to be going to AFCON in the winter. So Ivan Toney would be returning around that time, and so I think they don't want to be out pretty much all their attacking options for however long those two are at AFCON. So that's something to keep in mind too. They're going to get Toney back potentially, and you add that to this team, which is, I think, they've weathered the storm well enough, and they've sort of established themselves, I think, as a mid-table team in the Premier League, which is ultimately a good thing. And when you consider that Brentford were not a overly wealthy team, they don't have a ton of history and things to really fall back on, at least at like a top level. The fact that they've started to maintain their position as regulars in the Premier League, I think, is really good. And for Chelsea, I think it's embarrassing when you consider how much money they spent on this squad, and it still feels like they're so far away from finding any kind of solution. It still feels like they're a few transfer windows away from having a team that is really competitive, and it's frustrating and strange because it felt like I said, they had turned a corner, and now here they are. Dom, what kind of bug and how quickly did you kill it, and what device or accessory did you use?
I actually have the accessory with me. It's the back of my flip-flop. You can actually kind of still see. I got to clean that.
Yeah, classic. That's awesome. You should hold it up closer to your camera.
What was that?
You should hold it up closer to camera. People love that.
No, it's okay. It was a spider cricket.
Oh,
I got some pretty large ones around my
terrifying.
house.
I wish I hadn't asked now.
I think it was partially dead already because I did have Orkin come today and spray around my house and whatnot. And the guy told me that he found in one of the traps in my garage a spider cricket that was pretty large, like the largest he's ever seen. So I've got
It's always good when you hear that it's the largest that they've ever seen.
Yeah, right. And I also didn't know that they were getting into my house. I saw them in my driveway every now and then, but yeah, first time I ever saw one of those, bro, they scared the crap out of me.
Okay, so I'm Googling this.
Spider cricket?
They are apparently they're camel crickets. I don't know where they. Yeah, it is a Rhaphidophoridae. Cave crickets, camelback crickets, camel crickets, Hogan bugs, spider crickets. Sometimes shortened to critters or sprickets. Land shrimp. Land shrimp is much less scary than spider cricket.
I can see where they call them that, but yeah, fuck that. No.
Wildly different.
If you don't know what these things look like, they are going to scare you when you first see it.
Actually, spiders, though.
No, they're not. They're called that just because their legs are super long, so they kind of look like a spider, but they're not like an arachnid.
Makes me a little less scared of them. I'll say that. In my mind,
their hind legs are huge.
I know,
like,
but okay,
the body's like this. The body's like this, but then the leg is like.
Thought they were some kind of disgusting, like hell spawn of a spider and a cricket. I don't know that I thought those things were actually mixed, but I thought they were a spider that more looked like a cricket rather than a cricket that looked like a spider. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I'm actually a little less scared of them.
Have you ever seen a spider jump?
Yeah.
That's scary,
Dom,
right?
I lived in the woods. You were a city boy.
Yeah,
I was.
Right.
No.
I had woods behind my house too.
Okay,
I don't want to hear
you had trees. You had trees behind your house. You had trees.
There were wooded areas by my house.
There were areas where there were trees. You did not have woods.
Not like yours, but there were woods.
I once had a spider in my room, and I didn't sleep in my room because I went to kill it and it disappeared. And I was like, I'm out. I actually remember our family was terrorized for like about a week because we had a massive spider, like truly one of the biggest spiders I've ever seen, like trouncing around our house. And of course, everyone saw it but my dad. So my dad thought we were all exaggerating. Everyone, like on a different day, encountered this beast throughout our house, and we were all in the living room, and it just came walking out from under our like entertainment center. It was like, oh shit, that is big. And we ended up killing it as a family, which was a great bonding experience. But yeah, just something to consider. I've had a go around with spiders. I love all animals, but spiders, it is on site when you are in my house, right? Like if you're on the doorway, if you're in like the threshold of my door, I'll maybe just try and push you out. But if you were like in
Not for
my
me.
home,
No.
if you were in my home, you're dead, brother. I'm sorry.
No,
I know
I
you don't. I know you didn't mean to get in here. I know you're probably scared, but like, man, I just can't have it.
Dude, there was this one. It was about the size of my like inner palm, and it like in the corner where the side of my house meets the garage. There's like a little gap that they can sneak in, and they made a web that went from side to side on the corner. It was huge, and this spider was big, right? Every now and then you'd see him on the web. Every now and then you don't. Every time I would either come home or leave the house and it was out, I would always look because it skeeved me out. So as long as I could see it and where it's at, I'm good. I saw this shit jump into the crack in between the house. Like it did it every single time.
God, I feel the bugs are under my skin.
As soon as I walk around like Monica's car to go unlock the door, and I'm looking at it as I'm walking in, and every time or as I'm walking out and I'm locking the door, I'm looking at it, and then it would just go, and I'm like, no, go leave now. Next, like after I saw it about like for a week, I went to the store and got some Raid and waited till the next time I saw it out and just sprayed it, went at it, and then it showed up again. I had to spin the block again for round 2. Like it was. Dude,
hold up, player. You going 1-on-1 with the Undertaker? Yeah, I'm seriously like my skin is crawling now. Like actually,
sorry,
but it's evolutionary. It's normal to be afraid of spiders. Okay, we have evolved tens of thousands of years to be afraid of them.
You know what else gets your skin crawling? Seeing a team come back from 3-0.
Dom, I should rename you the King of Segways because that is unbelievable. That is. I can't believe you didn't go to school for journalism because that is unbelievable. That's great work by you. Way to just bring it back naturally, conversationally. Unbelievable. Let's talk about it. Cagliari pull off a historic comeback in 122 years of Serie A. No team has ever come back down from 3-0 after the 7th minute to win the game. It kind of defied. I'll be honest. I did not watch this game live. But I remember checking and seeing that it was 3-0. I was like, all right, cool. Yeah, like I'll catch the highlights.
Yeah.
And then I saw, once the game ended, that it ended 4-3. And I was like, well, I really have to get the extended highlights now, I think.
Sit there for 23 minutes because there's just so much that happened.
First win of the season, too, by the way. Claudio Ranieri has somehow found himself into some of the most interesting records and situations, and I think this is somewhere near the top of that pile for him. But for Cagliari, it's their first win of the season. You will not see a more dramatic way to do it. 2 goals in stoppage time to get there. I don't know what more is there to say. The game itself kind of does all the talking. For Frosinone, they've had a good season to start the year, considering they're a newly promoted side. For Cagliari, it was always going to be a little bit of a struggle. Like I said, they get their first win in this game, and I will say, taking something away from this game, I do think that you kind of have the resolve to fight back, and they've been on a little bit of good form. They win in Coppa Italia today against Udinese, but they drew against Salernitana, win against Frosinone, win against Udinese. Now you got Genoa at the weekend. There's maybe something to be optimistic about if you're Cagliari now.
Yeah, I mean, even just from watching the extended highlights, it looked like Frosinone was getting better chances, but Cagliari had the better control of the game. They looked like they were getting some good quality chances as well, but Frosinone capitalized on the mistakes in the back that Cagliari had early on in the game, and Cagliari kind of dug themselves in a hole. It's kind of crazy because I'm not surprised that they came back based off of how they were playing. They seemed like they were the better team the entire time. It's just that they were getting unlucky. They didn't have, the quality they wanted in front of the goal. And then in the back, they gave up too many turnovers. It was crazy. To me, it looked like a FUT champs game over off a Ultimate Team, because that's the type of shit that happens. All right. Knock it off your bingo card. I did it. All right. I swear, I had a game just like this on EAFC last night. I swear.
Yeah.
I swear. I
I
came
believe
back
you.
from 3-0 down. I won. I scored all 4 goals within 10 minutes. 80th minute on, made some subs. Boom. It's crazy, given the amount of time. They had 7 minutes of extra time too, which kind of, set them up and allowed them to come back. But, this game had everything. Missed penalties, just dramatics, everything, man. And I do want to highlight a player from Frosinone. What's his name? Soule, who had 2 goals. He's Argentinian, but I'm pretty sure he has Italian citizenship.
Right? I believe he's also a Juventus loanee.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they were talking about Spalletti, keeping an eye on him. He's like the future, of Italian, the next up kind of deal. Spalletti's doing this big, youth overload of the Italian national team. So, if he does have dual citizenship and he decides to play for Italy instead of Argentina, it'd be a good little promising forward for them.
Who would you choose right now between Italy and Argentina? Because I know Argentina are just coming off a World Cup win, but a lot of that was off of the back of Messi.
I think if you're a young player, Argentina still has a lot of quality. I think it's easier to break into the Italian national team. I think it all depends on what you want out as a player. If you're at that point, if you go Argentina, you may not actually get a lot of playing time, but you could potentially, win things, or you want to be a part of, you want to be a big part of kind of bringing a national team back to the glory that they had, in years past.
Italy won the Euros at the last Euros.
Yeah, and look how quickly they've dropped off since they didn't qualify for the World Cup. They're in contention to not qualify for this European Cup. This is not the same Italian national team. And a lot of those guys that did win the Euros with the team are kind of on their way out. There's only a couple that are going to be mainstays in that team from winning the Euros. You're talking Donnarumma, Tonali, but Tonali's banned for 10 months. So, a lot of those younger midfielders aren't even available to do any of this. Spalletti's calling up a lot of young guys, and then Jack Bonaventura gets called up, which is a good thing for me. I love seeing that. I know you probably like seeing that one too, but he's trying to find the proper balance, right? We called up Stefan El Shaarawy. He's calling up these guys who kind of deserved call-ups when they were younger, and now they're finally getting their shot and be these guys to kind of be the right guys to guide these younger players that are getting their first national caps or a lot more, senior team time. You kind of know I'm going to go with Italy, but it all depends on what you want. Argentina's got so many great players that you can learn from. You may not play in the starting 11, but you're learning from, guys like Angel Di Maria, as long as Messi's around.
I think Di Maria, in my mind, Argentina and Italy Italy had the problem where a lot of their aging, more star players have sort of phased out, and they're looking for that next generation. Argentina is going to be in the same bag. That's not a young Argentinian team. Julian Alvarez is the only young kind of star.
Julian and Enzo. Romero and Christian,
Enzo.
yeah.
But that's there's not tons and tons of talent there, I don't know. It's obviously still very talented.
Martinez Porta.
I think in general, the next phase of Argentina is going to look a little similar to this phase of Italy, where you have some young studs, but there's not enough, and there's not enough on the right areas, and you kind of have weaknesses. I don't know. I just think most people's reaction would be that Argentina is much better and whatever, and a lot of that is influenced by the World Cup. But I just think I think these teams are probably a little more similar. Maybe. I don't know.
I just don't think that there's a lot of guys that you can relate on Italy to. If you're thinking of the guys that are next up or still maybe in the team.
You want to say Frattesi?
Well, Frattesi. So yeah, Frattesi, Barella, right? We're talking Enzo. We're talking McAllister. We're talking DePaul if he's still getting called up. Julian Alvarez, who won Italy, young wise, Giacomo Raspadori, Gianluca Scamacca,
Bastoni,
like Bastoni. Well, yeah. I was just thinking forwards, but
Donnarumma.
well, yeah, of course, Donnarumma's a mainstay. He's obviously going to be there.
No, but he's a young player still. Donnarumma's been around for 7 years, but he's still like.
No, who's the craziest one? I saw this. Alphonso Davies is 22.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
He broke out as a teenager in MLS, and
it's so nuts, man. It's so nuts to me. Like, he's been around on the scene for so long at a high level. He's only 22. It's crazy.
We'll move quickly through this as quickly as we can, but Napoli crawl back to earn a draw against Milan. Milan started really strong. Olivier Giroud with a brace. One of those, a great Christian Pulisic assist, by the way. Timo Reinders should have had a third. Blazes it over the bar. There's a few other half chances for Milan, but Napoli find their way back into the game. A great solo goal by Politano, and I gotta say, one of the most disrespectful shots I've ever seen by Raspadori. No man should be able to put that kind of power behind the ball.
Nuts.
I've never seen a ball have so little motion. Like, it didn't move. It's just in 1 second it was on the grass, and then next is in the back of the net. Unbelievable strike. It was a great game, a lot of action, plenty of drama. And I don't think it's a terrible result for Milan, all things considered, if you go to Naples and get a draw, even though they haven't had the strongest start to the season and Rudy Garcia is a fraud. But I still think, this is a result you kind of live with. It's harder to stomach when you're up 2-0 in the match, and you kind of feel like maybe you lost the points here. But I think all things considered, not the worst result.
I think considering, how close the table can be, with this win, Napoli pulls within 4 points of Milan. So, like, obviously, you still have a 2-game lead on the team that got a tie. But against these top teams in the league, even dropping 2 points feels like a loss, because those 2 points can be crucial. I know that you were saying it last season when Milan tied Juventus, right? And you were like, this draw could come back to bite them in the ass, right? So, like, that's what I don't want is to look back at the season and say, oh, these 2 points we dropped against Napoli could have done it, right? I do think that it shows some weakness in Milan. I don't think within the players, but I think within the coaching, some of the game plan. I think that Pioli's been a bit too hard-headed when it comes to some of the team selection. It's nice seeing Romero get some game time now, because I do think that he is a talented player, and he obviously needs that kind of game time to help along with it. It's hard to break into that right wing spot when you've got to play over Chukwueze and Pulisic. But I think that the fans are having a meltdown online right now. You're getting the age old, oh, should we sack the manager? Should we not? This and that. And other people, talking, Giroud's not good enough, but Giroud scored 2 goals. So I don't know about that. Leao's been put into question. There were some questionable decisions that I saw him make in that game. The one chance that he could have played Romero in through, but then he slows the play up and then decides to try to chip the keeper, and he just kicks it way over the goal out of bounds. And, it looks like he's getting frustrated. When he got subbed off, he was yelling at Pioli. There's obviously some disconnect between the management and the players right now. And I think that once the locker room can kind of get back under control, you'll see some more consistency from them. But, there's rumors going all over the place. People saying, like, they're trying to bring Zlatan back in as a coaching role to help some of these players, and like all this other stuff. And, it's all speculation. It's all, people just flapping their gums on Twitter and like you said, I don't want to look too much into it. I think it's still a good result, especially after being up 2-0 and playing a terrible second half, and leaving some goals on the doorstep that you should have scored. So, on another day, Milan ends up winning that game like 4-2. So, if Reinders gets that chance and completes it, if Leao can create something, yeah, like Milan had the goals in them. It's just they've been extremely inconsistent, and they need to turn that around.
For Napoli, it's a good result because
Yeah.
I think you find yourself down in the game and are able to find that like extra level, extra gear that I thought I'd maybe been missing this year so far from them. They're sitting in 5th right now. They're like we said, still a little bit off that title race spot, but could find their way back into Champions League contention, and they still very much are. So that's the good news for Napoli. Speaking of climbing back up the table, Lazio win against Fiorentina. Just 1 point behind Fiorentina now in the standings with that win. Lazio had a really challenging start to the season and have largely rebounded back to a little bit more of the form and the standard that I think we kind of associated with them over the last few years. So wanted to give them a little bit of praise, for again, turning it around. They started out so terribly. Both Roman clubs did. Roma, obviously, too, losing over the weekend to Inter. The Lukaku derby. I don't know. I don't know what to even call it anymore. And also wanted to give a shout out to someone you mentioned earlier, Gianluca Scamacca. 2 goals and an assist. He had a nice back heel nutmeg against Empoli. Great to see from him. Started to get a little confidence and find some goals because ultimately I think he's a good striker, but he should have just never left Italy. I think he really could have used more time.
Those performances helped. Milan dropped 2 points. Atalanta get the win and pull it within 3 points. So I mean, it's starting to heat up. In those top spots. I mean, hell, Inter only has a 3-point lead on Milan. So, it's starting to get close. The top 4, top 5 in the league. The middle of the table is super close. Serie A is getting really, really interesting. So 10 games into the season. So, yeah, I mean, if you've been on the fringe, you just listen to this and you're a Prem guy and, you kind of just listen to the Serie A stuff, but you don't really watch it. I'd say start watching it. Even this Lazio game, right? Like it was 0-0 till extra time where Lazio scores the pen, but that game was still entertaining. Both teams had chances. It's going back and forth, and there's some really entertaining games. You have that one random day you decide to watch Frosinone Cagliari, and you end up seeing one of the best games you'll see all year. So, Serie A can get really, really entertaining.
Yeah, love to see it. Let's look at this weekend's games because we have some good ones. 2 teams we just mentioned, Atalanta against Inter this Saturday. That'll be a good one. Fiorentina versus Juventus. The Chiesa Vlahovic derby of at least this generation. That's a good one, though. Juventus finding ways to just continue to win somehow. Newcastle and Arsenal on Saturday in the Premier League. That's a really good one. And then you also have Chelsea and Spurs on Monday, which we highlighted. That's one to watch for sure. Always a pretty interesting game there. That's all we got for this episode. Dom, anything to say before we get out of here?
Yeah, if you had to pick Prime Bale or Prime Salah, who are you going with?
Oh, Christ. Prime Salah, obviously. Not even a question.
Prime Salah.
Bale's great. I love him. But Prime Salah.
Prime Salah or Prime
I'll take
Hazard?
the guy that broke the Premier League goal scoring record.
There you go. So you take him over Hazard as well, right?
Salah over Hazard in a fucking heartbeat. I'd take Prime Andres Townsend over Eden Hazard, the most overrated player of my lifetime. Actually,
okay, so here's one. I kind of got into a conversation online with this one. Ozil at his height at Arsenal, or sorry, no, it wasn't Ozil. It was Alexis Sanchez. Alexis Sanchez at Arsenal, or Eden Hazard at Chelsea.
Alexis Sanchez. I will take the guy that can score 20-plus goals in a season over the guy that went a whole season without scoring. Don't you unzipped me on the Hazard shit.
I'm sorry.
He was a good player. People treat him like he was like this mercurial superstar.
Do you know why?
He was never even the best Belgian in the Premier League. Every year that he was in the Premier League, Kevin De Bruyne was a better player than him.
This is why. He was a video game goat. That's why. That's the only reason.
He was a good player. He had good moments. He could take over games for sure. But I tell you this, I've also seen Andros Townsend take over games. That's it. Like it's just he's not Andros Townsend clearly, but he's a very good player. But he is someone that I think I always felt like I never enjoyed playing against Hazard. Right, I was always scared of what he might do with the ball. But again, I watch games with a ton of anxiety. I'm scared of everyone.
Listen,
I get scared when Pedro Neto is dribbling at the defense, right?
Everybody talks about how good Ozil is just across his entire career, but like even at Arsenal, like he was the guy, and like Alexis Sanchez was just leagues above him. And, it's just one of the greatest Premier League seasons you'll ever see, in my opinion.
Alexis Sanchez is a very good player. Almost a Liverpool player too. That was the summer that Suarez left. We're trying to get Sanchez. So here's Sanchez in the Premier League with Arsenal: 16 goals, 8 assists, 13 goals, 4 assists, 24 goals, 10 assists.
That season right there.
Come on, like Hazard's not seeing heaven, dude.
I think Hazard's best season with Chelsea was like 16 goals, 12 assists, something like that. Like double figures in both.
Right now, obviously, counting stats are not the only way to compare players, but here is his debut season: 9 goals, 11 assists. Okay, he's 21, breaking into the Premier League. 14 goals, 7 assists. 14 goals, 9 assists. 4 goals and 3 assists. 16 goals, 5 assists.
Yeah.
0.
And then it gets you a move to Real Madrid where you don't play.
12 goals, 4 assists, and 16 and 15.
Yeah. So that 16-15 season did so well, finally, after a couple subpar seasons, right?
And that was Maurizio Sarri, by the way.
And then ends up going to Real Madrid and not getting any playing time because
he's Bale. No, because he's out of shape.
Well,
Bale was not keeping him out of the starting lineup when he went to Madrid. Bale was like pretty out of the picture by then. He went to Madrid in the 1920 season.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, Bale was already on his way up. Yeah, you're right.
Bale was already like circling the drain there and not getting a ton of playing time. It was Eden Hazard showing up like 20 pounds and out of shape, coming in and just never staying healthy.
Losing his spot to Vinicius Jr. eventually. So
yeah, and Rodrigo. Sorry to say it, brother.
Aside from that, follow me on X. At a hairy ape FUT. I haven't been streaming on Twitch, but I'm going to. I just got one of my idols, Andrea Pirlo. You already know what it is. I'm trying to revive the pro club, man. I'm trying to get Matt back in the game. I'm trying to get Nikolai on the game. Bring back the RB button.
0 time, and I don't have the money to buy a new Xbox.
I know.
Talk to me. I don't know. Talk to me in like 2 years. I think.
Listen, we need Dookie Shoes back in there. What was your player's name? Was it just you had some name?
For a while, it was Datway from Migos.
Yeah.
That was God, who was that awful SoundCloud rapper that is like an OnlyFans star now? Gucci Gang. Who's the Gucci Gang guy? Why can I not think of his name?
Oh my God! Is it?
This is just like as.
Why don't I remember his? Lil Pump. Lil Pump.
Yeah, I think for a little bit I was Lil Pump.
I was young Pirlo. Remember that?
Yeah, I will never forget it.
Young Pirlo. I used to do the face scans. I was Waka Flocka.
That was when the game was fun, when you could
Ronald Reagan
do stuff like that. Yeah. Ronald Reagan believes in trickle-down goals. The goals at the forward score will eventually be transferred to the defenders.
Yeah, I played CDM, so gotta. Anyway, y'all enjoy the rest of your week. Go watch.
We'll be back next week. Enjoy the games. Enjoy the turn of weather. Swear, being, and enjoy that the clock's going back an hour. Get an extra hour of sleep this weekend if you live in America.
God.
So
I need it.
Look forward to that. We'll talk to you next week. See ya.